Republican from a Super Tuesday state, the state of Oklahoma. Senator Markwayne Mullin, thank you so much for being here. You endorsed Donald Trump more than a year ago. Nikki Haley says that Trump can't beat Joe Biden without the 30 to 40% of the Republican voters she wins in many of these primary contests. Senator, do you think she has a point?
Dana, I don't think she's actually being realistic in what she's trying to get done here. She hasn't won a state yet, and she has a right to run. Nikki has a right to run. Everybody has a right to run. I commend everybody that puts her name on the ballot. However, at some point, you got to call it. I thought she would call it after she lost her own state in a horrible fashion. Now that we go into Super Tuesday, there's not a chance she's going to win a single state. All the polls show right now that Donald Trump is slightly ahead of Joe Biden, even polls that typically don't lean that way. At this point, what her donors need to be looking at is what other races can they get involved in? What Senate races can they get involved in? Tim Sheehy's race, can they get involved in Sam Brown's race? Can they get involved in and Kelly Lake's race? I mean, where can their money better be spent? Because we shouldn't be fighting among Republicans. We should be fighting to take back the White House and the Senate, and also strengthen our majority in the House.
But Senator, what about her argument about the fact that there are, again, 30 to 40%, depending on the state, of voters who vote for her? According to, just take South Carolina for an example, 40% of that share said they were voting against Donald Trump. Is that a warning sign for Trump?
No, I don't really think so. Any of us that's ever ran in politics at all understand that there's about 20 or 30% of the population in your own state that'll vote for anybody but you. And so what she's seeing is just the out fringe of the party that would vote for anybody but, and they will look at, even though President Trump isn't necessarily an incumbent, they look at him more as an incumbent. She has that group of individuals, and she can get, anybody can put their name on any ballot when it's one-on-one and get 20 to 30% of the vote.
Okay, let's talk about what's happening in the Senate. Mitch McConnell announced this week that he will step down as Republican leader. In November, he'll do that this coming November. You're supporting his number two, South Dakota Senator John Thune, to succeed him. Thune did just endorse Donald Trump this past week, but he's been pretty critical of the former president in the past. Do you think that could hurt his leadership bid?
Well, after January 6th, there were several individuals that came out that had harsh words to say about President Trump at the time. I think if you talk to Senator Thune right now, he understands the party, it needs to be united, and he recognizes that President Trump's going to be the presidential nominee. That's why he came out, even before Mitch McConnell said he was going to resign. And let me tell you, no one knew that Mitch McConnell was going to resign. That wasn't by accident. Senator Thune and I had multiple conversations about it. I'm very good friends with Senator Thune. That's why my support is with him. That doesn't say anything bad about the other candidates that may be running. I know Rick Scott has thrown his name around that he may be doing it. John Brasso is a great guy. John Cornyn is a great guy. I'm just better friends with Thune, and I've seen his leadership skills move around. Even when Mitch was unable to be at the Capitol because of some illnesses, I saw Thune step up in a very effective manner. And what I look for in any position that needs to be in leadership position is someone that can lead in very dangerous and critical times. And that's what I saw John Thune do.
Just real quick to follow up on that, are you worried that Donald Trump will try to block John Thune?
I don't know. President Trump and I had a really good conversation last week. My advice to President Trump, which, President Trump's his own man, he's going to make his decision, and he does a good job in that, is to kind of stay out of the race, because it's a lose-lose situation. He needs to work with whatever leader is there, and let me tell you, whatever leader's there understands that they're going to have to work with President Trump too. So it's really not in his best interest to lean in the race at this point. However, if he chooses to do it, it will make a difference.
Senator, let's talk about an issue Republicans are grappling with, and that is the fallout of the Alabama IVF ruling that frozen embryos are children and should be protected from destruction. You're really open about the struggles you and your wife have had with fertility. How does your experience shape your perspective on the question of IVF access?
Well, listen, as you know, my wife and I, we struggled for 7 years to have children, and it was tough. It's something that was very difficult for us month after month after month. And we went through all types of fertility. And so anyone that's out there thinking that in Alabama thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? We've been trying to have children. We've been wanting to have children. And now that's going to be affected. I can tell you that's not the position that the Republican Party stands. We understand that. I'm not the only one in the Republican Party, for that matter, the only one in politics that has struggled having children. This had nothing to do with politics. This is the ruling of a court that I believe that the Alabama state legislators are probably going to fix. But as I reiterate, this is not the position of Republican Party or the pro-life movement at all.
So there's the position, and then there's what are you going to do about it as elected officials, as leaders. And so the question is whether or not you support codifying that support into law, protections for IVF on the federal level to prevent what we're seeing.
Yeah. Dana, if we need to do this federally, we absolutely will support it. And you'll see a lot of support, maybe complete support in the Republican Party. I can't obviously speak for all my colleagues, but I think the state legislator in Alabama is going to resolve this issue, and hopefully we don't have to do this federally. But if we do need to, I can assure you I'll be right in the middle of that fight, fighting for it.
I have to ask you about Congress sort of twisting itself in knots, trying to pass a bill to support Israel and Ukraine, and it also support for the southern border. You support Ukraine funding, although you voted against a recent foreign aid package in the Senate. Members from both parties in the House say Ukraine and Israel would pass overwhelmingly. Given that support, should the House Speaker allow a vote to give money to Israel and Ukraine, particularly Ukraine, given how dire things are over there?
Well, yes, but we have to have border in it. We have to take care of our own border before we move forward on all this. And I think there's a very simple, as I like to say, a KISS version, keep it simple version that's out there that's going to be with lethal aid for Ukraine, lethal aid for Israel, lethal aid for Indo-Pacific, and very simple but effective measures on the border to secure a border and stem the flow. It's not the same bill that Lankford had out, but it's a simple version that can be very effective. At the same time, what we want to do is President Trump put out a social media message that said we should loan it to them, and the loan should be very generous with no interest and no scheduled paybacks unless they strike rich or they turn their back on us. Well, this is the land lease agreement that we put in place after the World War II in 1946 that basically said that we'll loan you the money, but if your per capita GDP ever goes over that of the United States, that you owe the money back to us, or that you turn your back on us. I think those are very reasonable terms that we can do to get past. And at the same time, we also have a repo act where we could repo the assets that Russia has held that we have put sanctions on and use that money to fund Ukraine too. I believe with those measures in it, that it can pass the House, and if it passes the House, it'll pass the Senate. What Speaker Johnson has a problem with is that he has the majority of the majority to bring it to the floor, and I believe this smaller package, I believe he can do that.
He wants to have the majority of the majority. There are no rules about that, but I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Senator.
The House Conference Rules does.
Okay.
The House Conference Rules does have it for the Republicans.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator.